Hi, welcome back to the workshop. In this black case and this bag is a complete computer-controlled precision telescope. I bought it used and I only paid $100 for it. Now the reason I got such a good deal is because it's broken. In fact, when I was at the seller's house, we couldn't see any light through it. That explains why we got a good deal. It's a bit of a risk, but I think in this video, we're gonna investigate this, find out what's wrong, fix it, and we'll make it good as new and see what we can see with this awesome telescope. Thanks for joining me on this little adventure. Let's see what we've got here. The tripod's in here, but let's open up the case. Slide these open. And what we have is a Meade ETX-70. This is a computer-guided refractor telescope. Now that means basically that it uses lenses, not mirrors, and it has a built-in diagonal right here. We'll look at this a little bit later. It's kind of an odd telescope. The focus knob is this little guy right here. We'll dig into that a little bit more. You can see that it tilts up and down, and it is guided by the computer base in here. Let's see what else is in here. Put that there. We have the remote control. This is the Meade autostar unit, and there's a few eyepieces in here actually. Here's that's empty. That looks like that's what the Barlow came in. So this has a 2x telenegative. Looks a lot like a Barlow. I assume that's the Barlow. It has a compass. It's pretty handy, I'm sure. For getting it all set up and aimed. We'll work on that when we get it all functioning. And some eyepieces. What's this one? This is a 6mm, and it's got this tiny little exit pupil there. Nice little container though. That's pretty cool. And what's this one? This is a Meade. This is a 25mm. This looks to be in pretty good shape. We have it's a Meade 9mm. That seems to be in pretty good shape too. And we have it's a Meade 4mm Plössl. And I'll show you these close up here in a second. That is the smallest, tiniest little exit lens I've ever seen. It is absolutely tiny. Wow. That's impressive. Okay, there's some other stuff here. There's these two bolts. I guess these are to hold it to the tripod. And I always like to look and see, because the owner said he's had at least 10 years, I think. So I'm not sure how old. Hey, look at this. I'm not sure how old it is. So, instruction manual in pristine condition. This is very impressive. That's still glossy and okay. We've got some advertisements here. We got a price sheet. Let's see, is it 10 years old? Does it have a date? This is it 2002? What's this say? Let's see if there's any dates on here. 2000. So this ETX-70 is, 22 years old. It's in really nice shape. Of course, it had two problems when we bought it, and that was one, the electronics obviously didn't work, and we couldn't see any light path through this. We're going to have to investigate that. Here's a Meade catalog. Wow, Meade always had really nice catalogs. This thing looks brand new. This is very impressive. Wow, okay. I'm going to look at this later, but pretty neat stuff. Instructions for the hard carry case. I think he bought the case extra. I'm not sure. There's a CD in here, and the CD has Meade's limited edition astronomy software. So there's all kinds of stuff. But there is a really nice tripod in this bag. So we'll take a look at that next, okay? So let's just put this away. Let's look at the tripod. Okay, so here's the tripod's in this nice, looks like a golf bag. Let's open it up. And this is it's pretty solid tripod. I do like the Meade tripods. I like how these are set up. So let's get it set up. And it's got 2 holes. And this has 2 holes. All right, I'll hold that in place. So that's that. You can see, oh, I hear something shaking. There's something loose, something not right in there. Now, this of course can come up even higher. So this comes up pretty high. It's pretty nice, actually. That's how it's supposed to work. You just plug the autostar controller in there, and if everything was working, we could take this outside and look at the stars. Okay, so here are the eyepieces that came with it. I assume most of these are 20 years old. The first 2, these are Meade Plossels, 25 millimeter and a 9 millimeter. And I have to say, these are pretty hefty. These are pretty substantial. They're all metal. This one's a little bit, the eyepiece is a little bit warped, but that's okay. They're pretty nice. This one, I guess this is also Meade. It's a 6 millimeter. It's got that tiny little lens pupil there, but look at this guy. This is the 4 millimeter. It is just so small. Compare that, the lens right there with that one. It is tiny. So I'll be curious to see how that looks. And of course, here is the Barlow. They call it a telenegative, the 2x telenegative, but it's definitely a Barlow. So this is what we've got to work with. Again, look forward to seeing how this works. Let's talk a little bit about the Meade ETX-70. It's a 70 millimeter diameter, and it's a refractor. So that means there's going to be a lens on the front, and this won't have mirrors in it, right? Well, it does have a mirror as a diagonal. Something that makes this unique is that it has this is a refractor, but the diagonal is built in. So the light comes down through the lens, it hits a diagonal back here and comes this way. But this one also has the ability to lay the diagonal flat so that you can have straight through optical lines. So if you wanted to hook a camera up, you could hook it up back here. But I don't really plan to do that. I plan to use the diagonal and just use eyepieces. And so here's the little focuser knob. This moves this shell forward and backwards. From what I understand, it takes a while. But you can see it spins pretty nice on the base. And here is the here's the battery. Let me put the lens back on. I don't want to scratch the lens. Here's the battery cover. Well, by the way, there's no power going to it. Okay, so this has some, yeah, this thing has some old, it's a 6-pack, and it's basically got some old dead batteries. We'll get a new, I'll clean that up, see what we can do. So that's probably not why that's not working, I'm sure. Hopefully it's just the dead batteries. And they're leaking, so it's the electrolyte is messed up. So you may have heard earlier there was a clunking sound. It doesn't sound right. We're gonna have to investigate the diagonal, because when we tested this, we couldn't see through the mirror. I assume the diagonal's messed up. So here's the little switch for flipping the diagonal flat so that the light comes straight through the telescope. let's take a look at this, see if you can see. Now, I took the front off. I took the front of the telescope off so you could actually see. You're actually seeing the front. And if I tilt, it's starting to tilt, but it tilts flat. But that mirror, oh boy. Yeah, the diagonal broke off. It doesn't even, it's jammed. So, oh boy. The diagonal mirror is on that little flipping mechanism, but the diagonal mirror fell off. So I'm going to basically have to re-glue the diagonal onto this little flipper. Theoretically, I could probably put some glue down in there and just try to maneuver the mirror back in place. But I'm afraid, I don't know if the glue would, if there any kind of outgassing would mess up the optics. So what I probably should do is remove this diagonal section from the tube and isolate the diagonal and try to fix it that way. Okay, so the plan to isolate the diagonal section of this is not going to work because when Meade built this, this is all one plastic piece. Here. So this is all one plastic piece right here. And theoretically, I could remove it. I've looked up some instructions. There's a couple of screws back here and on this side too. But the two hard ones are, there's a little Phillips head screw right in here. And there's another one on the other side over here. And no matter what kind of super flat, tiny screwdriver you get, you can't get into this gap. So it looks like we have to disassemble the entire thing. So we're going to disassemble these upright stands from the base so that we can pull the sides off. And then we can pull this off the back and re-glue that diagonal. I'll probably use some silicone glue to glue that back on. You can see, I don't know if you can see the back of the mirror. It's got, the glue is kind of a yellowish. It looks like it was an epoxy. So anyways, we will start to disassemble this next. All right, so this is completely out of warranty. You know, do this at your own risk if you have a similar telescope. But take the bottom off. And it looks like we have to pull this off. So let me get a wrench. All right, there we go. All right, so the uprights are held on with 3 bolts on each side. Let's see if we can get away with just taking off this side. I'm going to loosen this side too. All right. Ah, look at that. All right. Got a little setting circle there. Just come off. So it's got this spring-loaded thing here. All right. So this is the screw we were trying to get at. This guy right here. I'm going to see if I can take it off the other side as well. I want to get these mixed up, so. A little bit different there. Okay, I gotta be very careful. This has a lot of grease on it. Put this back right there. Okay, so we got it apart. We should be able to take this off pretty easy now. So here we are. This is the telescope. You can hear the diagonal lens flopping in there. In fact, let's see if I can get it to flop back. So we're going to take this off the back. In order to do that, we have to remove the little focuser knob. And they sent the telescope with an Allen wrench. Let's see if it fits. I hope so. It does. Excellent. And that pulls right off. I'm going to put this little set screw right there. Okay, so there are 4 Allen screws right here, but they use a different Allen screw. So I'm just going to take that off with this. Now we just got to get these 2 screws out. There's a Phillips head there and a Phillips head there. All this trouble for these 2 little screws. Let's see if this comes out. You have to be very careful. There's the end of the tube. And there's the diagonal. Now I'm going to see if put this light here so we can see it. You can see the little diagonal flipper just without the mirror. Let's go ahead and glue the mirror on there. Okay, so what we're going to do is there's the platform for the diagonal. we're going to put some glue on there, and we're just going to drop this mirror on it and try to square it up and get it as flat as we can. And we'll let it cure overnight. I'm going to be using some silicone. I actually am using aquarium sealant. This worked really well for some other telescope fix-it jobs that I had. So I'm going to put a couple of dabs on there and then put the mirror on. Stuff smells pretty strong. So let's get this done with. Make sure your garage or workshop is well ventilated. They say you should only use 3. In this case, I'm just going to use 5. That's fine. I've cleaned the mirror ahead of time as best as I can. It's looking pretty good. Let's just lay it in there. Use a Q-tip. Try to push it flat. Oops. Try to push it flat. All right, it's pretty flat. We'll let it sit overnight. All right, so here we are. The glue is dried, or cured actually, and you can see the diagonal, how it works. Turn this little knob, and the diagonal turns. And you can see, looking pretty good. One thing to note, before the glue was dried, I actually reattached it to the telescope tube, and I went outside just to make sure that the alignment was pretty good, because I didn't want the glue to cure and it be all misaligned. So that's looking pretty good. So now I guess we just reassemble it. So first things first, we're going to take the actual tube. Now the key here is to get this little focuser shaft lined up with the hole. So let's give that a try. Well, that was pretty easy actually. So next I'm going to put the Phillips head screws in. All right, and now the Allen screws that go in here. All right, I think we can put this back in the base now. Okay, so here's the tube. Let's go ahead and see if we can put it back in the base now. There's a couple of little things I'm going to do. I'm going to tighten this upright first. All right. So that fell out. I'll have to review the video to figure out how to get that properly in. Okay, so I had to review the video to see how to put all the gears back together. There's a bit of a clutch mechanism here, so it needed to be done very carefully. Try not to let that fall out on yours, but if it does, just make sure you take lots of pictures, I guess, or video, and that'll be helpful. So here we are. We have the gear hub assembly. Okay, so we're going to tighten. We're going to put this in one side, like so, and I'm going to put this on there. Not too tight because I got to put the other side on now. All right. So how do we do this? This side is spring loaded. There's really only one way to do it. There's unique pins. It's not exactly a triangle. So we're gonna put this in like so. First, let's do this. All right. All right, while we have it here, screw this part in. And now, it's actually spring loaded. It's kind of interesting. I guess it's to take some of that weight. Let's put these 3 screws back in. Okay, so there's that. So what's left is to put the focuser knob back on over here. And that's pretty straightforward. All right, now to put the base on. So the way I showed for removing this flower pot part from the bottom earlier on was wrong. There's a much easier way, and it has to do with this little clutch handle here. If you look right there, there is a set screw, and you take this Allen wrench, put it in there, and you remove that set screw, and this pops off, and it reveals just a regular hex head. And then you can take a ratchet and just pull this bolt out, and then the whole thing comes apart. So that's actually a much better way to do it, and you don't have to mess with all those weird bearing issues on the bottom. That's just the much better way to do it. All right, so it turns out this is a really complicated thing to put back together. The clutch bolt that goes on top looks like this. Goes from loose to locked. And it looks like you have to assemble this. And then, from what I can tell, I had to pull the cap off. I'll put this in from the top and tighten it that way. And then when I get it just right, I'll loosen it up. And then I'll put this clutch plate back on. We'll see how it goes. See if we can pull that tight. I think this might actually be pretty good. Let's get it tight. And we'll put the cap on top of that. Just to show you where it is. It goes in this little tray right here. So we'll call this the tight fitting. A little set screw. Would be good to know. Alright, let's get that loose. And put the little set screw in here. It's a little bit fidgety. Almost there. There we go. So that's loose. Push the clutch over to the stop, and it's tight. All right. Leave it on loose. All right, so the diagonal is fixed. Everything's put back. We can turn the focuser tube or focuser knob, and it moves. One thing to note, this focuser knob, it pulls this shell forward and backwards. It's basically moving the objective lens forward and backwards. This is extremely slow and very tedious. I don't know of any way to speed that up unless you attach some kind of motor to it. These things have these tightening clutches on them. This is the driven side. But if you want it to be loose, just do that. So next up, let's put batteries in it. Here's the battery compartment. I cleaned it out a little bit. It has a little 9-volt connector. Here's the original battery holder. It had a lot of, look at that. It looks like the acid ate away at the metal fittings. So I got on Amazon and I bought a new one. It's basically identical. So let's give it a try. And let's go over here. Here's the controller. Oh, look at that. Light comes on. That's good. It's a good sign. Plug the controller in. Turn power on. Hey, autostar's powering up. Initializing, getting started. Okay. We've got to wait for this to get through there, I think, right? Push enter. Okay, so let's enter the important information, like today's date. Let's see. Okay, so let's push these buttons. Hey! We've got upward motion. We've got downward motion. This is exciting. What about left and right? We've got left and right. All right, that's a really good sign. I'm going to have to read up on if we have to calibrate the angle settings or anything like that. I don't think so, but I'm going to mount this on the tripod, see what we can do. All right, let's go ahead and get this powered on. It's going to go through the startup mode, push mode for escape, today's date, it's asking for daylight savings time, it's asking you to do the easy alignment. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so it's telling me to point the telescope north and make sure the tube is flat. I've already done that. It's pointing true north, and it's at 0 degrees elevation. So, yeah. It's going to try to find Sirius now, which is up there. We have some wildfires west of town, so in about 10 minutes we're going to lose view of the sky. But Orion is still up there. Alright, so it says it's pointing at Sirius. Let's see. Alright. It is off, so I'm going to slow it to the right a little bit. I think that's it. Press enter. Searching for the next star. Capella. This is all part of the alignment procedure. It's not going to be right on the first time. Alignment is successful. Let's see if it'll take us back to Sirius. Which go to? The clouds from the wildfires are pretty much obscuring quite a bit. Hey, it found it. Sirius is right in the middle of the view. This is actually very impressive. Let's have a point at the Orion Nebula. See if we can find the Orion Nebula. There it is. The Orion Nebula is right in the middle. This is very impressive, this GOTO. I would mark this as successful. It works. And it's tracking too. Alright, so we're back on the workbench. This telescope, we have tested it out and it seems to work. So the Meade ETX-70, I give it 2 thumbs up in my book. Let's go over the cons and then the pros. We'll go real quick. So the cons are that it is at 70 millimeters, it's kind of a small diameter telescope. If you're going to be using this and you're in the city and you want to look at the nebula, you're going to have a tough time finding the cloud structure, especially like on the Orion Nebula. You'll see the trapezium, and that'll be nice and sharp, but the cloud structure just won't really be there because it doesn't have the light gathering power of a Dobsonian. As you know from my other videos, I'm a huge fan of Dobsonians, and even an 8-inch Dobsonian will just blow these away for as far as light gathering. We'll let you guys. Let's see. The number one most irritating thing about this whole telescope is something very simple. It's this focusing knob right here. You change the eyepiece, you have to turn this and turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it, and it can take like a minute to get focused back in. So I don't know if they could use maybe a less fine thread on this in the future, but of course, this telescope's 20 years old. I have no idea how they improved it between then and now. Let's see. But those are really the only cons. Let's talk about the pros. First of all, you may notice it's obviously not on the tripod, and that's one of the pros actually. You don't need a tripod. It has these rubber feet on the bottom, and you can set this on any flat surface, and it works really well. As such, it's pretty portable. If you had a backpack, you could easily stuff this in a backpack. It comes with these two eyepieces that are 25mm and 9mm. They're pretty beefy and solid, and they produce a pretty good image. Now, on that line of optics, you know, most of the refractors that I have owned have been pretty broken and relatively low quality. So I was really blown away by how good the optics are on this. The images are pinpoint sharp, so they're really good. The go-to alignment, let's talk about that. It works really well, especially if you use the easy alignment. That was surprisingly pretty straightforward and relatively fast. And I'm impressed with how it works, and it still holds up after 20 years. I didn't update the firmware. I know that can be done, but I didn't want to mess with it because if I were to run into any kind of problems, I didn't want to basically brick the controller, so I didn't want to do that. So I just left it as is. So the optics are great. The automatic, the go-to portion works very well. One note on the go-to, just make sure you use a low magnification because you're going to have to do some fine tuning. The tracking seems to work pretty well. If you're zoomed in really far, you'll notice that the tracking might take a few seconds to catch up where the gears engage. So you might see it drift a little bit. You might have to lead it when you're setting it centered, but you'll figure that out when you're watching it. And of course, you get all this fun, and it only requires 6 AA batteries. So all in all, I've been very impressed with the Meade ETX-70. I can imagine the rest of the series is very similar. But anyways, if you can get one of these for a pretty good price, I would say go for it. I give it 2 thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Please remember to push the subscribe button and the like button. Both of them mean a lot to the channel, and it would mean the world to me. I appreciate your time. Clear skies, everybody. We have a lot of motorcycles in our neighborhood. Hi, welcome back to the workshop. Truck going by.